Hello students, herewith I am presenting the video lecture related to module 5, so where I will be discussing in detail about nanomaterials. So nanomaterials topic that I have covered in this video lecture is related to the study material that is given to you under module 5, that is page number ranging from 14 to 18. So what are these nanomaterials? As we are all familiar with the term nano, so nano is these materials are substances or materials that are mainly manufactured to use at very small scale, and usually they are identified with their specific characteristics. So these materials have their surface structure in nanoscale range. So such materials we call it as nanomaterial. So what nanoscale range? It is the size varying between 1 to 100 nanometer range. And obviously if we compare the characteristics of this nanomaterial, always they have better features compared to the same material at bulk scale. So usually they have more increased strength in terms of reactivity as well as conductivity or the thermal ability, etc. So always their characteristic will be more useful, more advanced compared to normal materials. And how we can define nanomaterials? So these are the materials having at least one dimension in nanoscale and are called as nanomaterials. So mainly they are this synthesis of these nanomaterials are related to our nanotechnology field. So we know the importance of nanotechnology in this advanced technical world. So this nanotechnology is nothing but it is designing or characterizing or synthesizing the structures between the nanoscale range, that is between 1 nanometer to 100 nanometer size. So we know 1 nanometer is 10 raised to minus 9 of a meter. So you can imagine what will be the size of a nanomaterial. So when it is synthesized in nanoscale range, so these materials having at least one dimension in nanoscale is must. So these are so small that even the microscopes cannot see it. So the nanoscale is the scale of atoms and molecules, the fundamental building blocks of the materials, whatever we are using to develop the technology. So mainly here the properties of the materials can be changed directly. So as I mentioned, in terms of its strength or optical nature, or maybe the mechanical strength or the conducting ability, etc. So most of the cases in terms of strength it will be having greater strength, even in terms of weight, less weight or lighter in nature, as well as durability also always will have more advanced uses. So this is about the introduction about the general nanomaterials. So how these properties of the materials changes when the materials is synthesized at nanoscale range. So when because of this nature in the change in the surface area between the nanomaterial and the normal bulk scale material, obviously there will be change in the properties also. So mainly it is influenced by the availability of the surface area within the molecule or the materials or the substance that we synthesize. So always they will be more reactive as well as more useful compared to their normal sized counterparts materials. So next, general application of nanomaterials. So we are very much familiar about the application of nanomaterials in our day-to-day life also. So all the technology based equipments where we can see the application of nanotechnology. So mainly made up of nanomaterials. So starting from the cell phones or the laptop components or maybe the electric circuits, so the circuit boards, circuit designing also, as well as the clothing system, or in the medical field also mainly used for the drug delivery system. Effectively these nanomaterials are effectively used for the drug delivery system, mainly in the treatment of cancer, etc. So one of the major application of nanomaterials, that is synthesizing we are all familiar about the importance of carbon nanotubes or graphenes or dendrimers, etc. So these carbon nanotubes are widely used in our automobile industry also, even the bicycle frames or even the sports equipment. So everywhere we can find out the importance of carbon nanotube application. And even these nano-sized particles are widely used in cosmetic industry. So we might have observed the creams, cosmetic creams based on oxides of zinc and titanium. So these are two familiar components found in most of the cosmetic creams. Obviously it is used in sunscreens. So we know the importance of sunscreens. So mainly nowadays we can see the sunscreens with nano-sized particles of titanium dioxide and zinc oxide. And you can make out the clear difference also, the importance or the advanced technology of these nano materials. So if you observe the sunscreen that is prepared with the nano-sized particles and with the normal bulk materials, so you can see the clear difference where the sunscreen prepared with nanoscale oxides are very clear compared to your normal material. So we have wide range of applications of this nanomaterials. So also in the preparation of containers or the food carriage systems, we go for nano coating also. So carbon nanotubes, cosmetics, as well as food storage containers and packages, even the bakery items or the packages inside that we can see a clear coating which is mainly made up of the nano materials. And also nano coated clothes, we know the importance of nano coated raincoats and how useful they are even in engineering field, in industries also, when they use the coats and all, or to protective coating with the nano coated clothes are observed if in industry, mainly for the stain proof as well as with the more durability. And also in the medicinal field, so maybe the treatment of cancer, cardiovascular disease, or artificial tissue replacing disease, in such cases these nanomaterials are widely applicable. So even in the chemotherapy also, for the drug delivery system also, effectively these nanomaterials are used. And even in your electronic field, they are used as semiconductors, as nanocapacitors. Even the fuel cell, we can see the membranes, or in chemical biosensors, so even wastewater management, the membrane system, water purification. So everywhere we can see the application of nano materials. So overall it has got more advantage. So you can see here nano coated shoes, or the antibacterial sports socks, which are all made up of silver nanoparticle here, surface coated with the nano materials. This is nano coated cloth. We can see how it can be stain proof and how it is useful in cleaning also. And nano based equipments, your smart watches, or the mobile screens, or else many electronic devices, even the laptop component, etc. Even the nano paints, which has got advanced application compared to normal the paint that we use. So about the properties of nanomaterial. So we know the importance of nanomaterial and its application. So properties, they have different properties mainly due to the difference in the size, as I mentioned. So mainly because of the surface property, they will exhibit various properties at nano level. So mainly the properties varies with respect to electronic or the magnetic behavior, optical, chemical, as well as biological properties also. So mainly they are size dependent. So main reason is that the surface area to volume ratio is relatively larger in case of nanomaterials compared to your bulk materials of same mass. So this will influence the characteristic of a material. When the surface area to volume ratio is larger, obviously the property of a material is changed. And also the energy levels, it changes at nano size. It is when you compare to the bulk material and nano size material, the energy level will not remain as it is. It changes, and obviously it will affect the electronic, magnetic and chemical property of the material. So main is that the difference in surface area to volume ratio compared to your normal bulk material, as well as the difference in the energy level. So this will exhibit different property to nano sized materials. So we have number of examples also where because of the size variant property, how the nanomaterial is having more advanced uses compared to your bulk materials, normal bulk materials. So what type of properties may vary? So because of the surface area change, as well as because of the energy levels, the substance which are opaque may become transparent. Like copper is opaque in bulk state and transparent in nanoscale. So also the inert material which are inert may act as a catalyst. For example, a well-known example is gold. So gold is used as an ornament, as it is a inert metal. We consider it as inert metal at its bulk state. But gold nanoparticles are effectively used as a catalyst in chemical synthesis. So now we can see everywhere the research related to gold nanoparticles as effective synthetic catalyst also. So that is how we can find out the advanced use of gold nanomaterials over bulk materials. So inert material may change its behavior as an active material, and stable material may become unstable. They may be combustible also. So if you take the example of aluminium is stable in bulk state, but it is combustible in nanoscale. And also there is possibility that we can convert the non-magnetic materials to behave like a magnetic materials at nanoscale. So if you take the example of platinum or palladium, they are non-magnetic in bulk scale, but if you say observe their nature at nanoscale, they are magnetic in nature. And also color of the material also changes with size. So here we know the ornament that we use, gold, it looks shiny and yellow, as well as it is a noble metal, what we say, but and also it is non-magnetic. But if you observe or study the property of gold nanoparticle of 10 nanometer size, then what you can observe, it will absorb green color. So when it absorbs green color, how it looks, it will give its complementary color, right? So it looks like red color. So if you observe the color of gold at bulk scale, it looks yellow, shiny yellow colored material, but at nanoscale range it appears to be red color. So this is how the property also changes. Even the mechanical property also changes in addition to thermal properties. So if you consider the example of silicon nanowires, they have a smaller thermal conductivity compared to bulk silicon. So if you consider the case of carbon nanotubes, they will have high thermal conductivity at nanoscale. So these are all how the properties varied in case of nanomaterials. So why the property varies, and most of the cases what we can see, it has more advantage because of these property changes compared to the bulk materials of same mass. So mainly this change in property is due to the change in the surface area to volume ratio, as well as with respect to the energy state. So when you compare the bulk material, nanomaterials energy state will be varied. So based on this, they will exhibit different properties compared to normal bulk state materials. So next is about how these nanomaterials are synthesized. So this is also an important concept. So mainly we can synthesize these nanomaterials by two approaches. It is categorized as bottom up and top down method. As the name itself indicates, bottom up. So in the first method, molecular components arrange themselves into more complex assembles. So here what we can see, that main two approaches, bottom up approach and top down approach. So in the bottom up approach, first one is bottom up approach. Here the molecular components are assembled atom by atom or cluster by cluster from the bottom. So here mainly the molecular components arrange themselves into some useful conformation using the concept of molecular self-assembly. That is why the name bottom up. Through the self-assembly, the structure is developed. And in case of top down, the second approach is top down approach. Here the nanoscale devices are created by using larger or other devices that to direct their assembly. That means the top down approach, it uses the traditional workshop or micro fabrication kind of work, in which we use externally controlled tools, maybe to shape the material or to cut the material or mold it into desired shape, etc. So always if you observe, bottom up approach has more advantages compared to top down approach. So mainly your bottom up approach utilizes the self assembly concept, whereas here nanoscale devices are created by some externally controlled tools in case of top down approach. So mainly this first approach, that is bottom up approach, it has a more important role in preparing nanomaterials, whereas it generally produces nanostructure with less defects also, and compared to your top down approach method. And also this top down approach method has its own importance in the synthesis and fabrication of nanomaterials. How these approaches can be utilized for the synthesis of preparation techniques. We have various methods of synthesis of nanomaterials. So importance of bottom up and top down approach, as I explained, this is what given here. So be clear about the difference between the two approaches. Here bottom up approach, self assembly concept is developed in order to develop the molecule. So how the molecule design is, particles are synthesized by self assemblies of molecules by molecule or cluster by cluster, whereas in second approach, that is top down approach, here the materials are designed using an externally controlled tools. The first one, we will be studying about the synthesis of nanomaterials by one of the important method that usually followed, that is Sol gel method. So what is this Sol gel method? Mainly, as the name indicates, here it involves the synthesis of nanomaterials through the formation of sol and gel, and finally drying the gel to get the desired nanoparticles. As you can see here, the precursors or the metal precursor or whatever the nanomaterials you have to synthesize, so they are dissolved and to get a solution form, we call it as a sol, formation of sol, and then again a gel is formed from the sol, and we have various application of this sol gel method. Mainly we can prepare the nano powder also, or else we can go for the coating or dip coating method, etc. From this synthesis. So mainly this method involves the conversion of solution into sol by treating with suitable reagent, and next there will be formation of gel where the sols are linked to form three-dimensional network. We call it as gel, and after that we need to evaporate the liquid in the gel so that a dense solid is formed, and after that again we need to convert the dense solid into other forms by drying, complete drying and calcination process to produce the nanoparticles. So it involves the following step. First step is preparation of sol. Second step, conversion of sol to gel. Third step is aging of the gel. Next, drying of the gel, followed by dehydration and calcination to get the nanoparticles. So these are the 5 steps involved in sol gel method. So step 1, mainly it involves the formation of metal hydroxide, as you can see from the equation MOH. So this is the metal oxide precursor in the solution form. So here metal hydroxide is formed, solvated metal precursors. So you can see this is the metal alkoxide, and this is the metal hydroxide. So first step is the hydrolysis process. In the step 2, whatever the metal oxide are hydrolyzed, and here they are again transformed into molecular precursor into highly cross-linked solid, that is the form of gel. So here this is the condensation process. You can see how the metal alkoxide combines with the metal hydroxide or the alcohol mixed, and how it forms the cross-linked MOM bond. So M represents general metal here, and with the formation of alcohol. So this process we call it as condensation process. So here in this case highly cross-linked solid is formed, nothing but gel formation. So first step is formation of sol, where the solution is formed from the precursor. Here you can see formation of metal hydroxide, and second step the metal alkoxide precursor that is formed in the first step, that is hydrolyzed to give you the cross-linked gel form. So we can synthesize different types of metals, nanoparticles, by using this method, like silicon, titanium, aluminium, zirconium, etc. Even silver also. And aging of gel is the third step. So in this there will be polycondensation of the hydrolyzed species, and it involves the contraction of the gel network, and there will be expulsion of solvent molecules from the gel pores. And after that we need to dry the gel, that is related to our fourth step. When water and other volatile impurities are removed from the gel network, it solidifies, and finally we need to dehydrate it completely, this can be done by heating process. So we need to heat the gel, dehydrated gel. Next is, last one is decomposition of the gel. So decomposition of the gel is also carried out at very high temperature, above 800 degrees Celsius. So this process also we call it as calcination, and in this there will be formation of nanoparticles. So here what happens, the gel network is collapsed completely, and the organic species are volatilized completely, and decomposition of gel into nanoparticles occurs. So this is about the synthesis of nanoparticles by sol gel method. As you can see how the precursor is dissolved in a proper suitable solvent to give the solution or the sol form, and sol to dehydration reaction here, nothing but MOM linkages, cross linkage is formed here, that is nothing but the network is formed, dense network, that we call it as gel. So sol step, gel second step, and after that we need to dry it. So based on the type of drying we will end up with the different types of network like aerogel, xerogel, which is densely packed, as well as directly we can dry the solution to get the nano powder also. So here first step is formation of sol, second step is formation of gel, next is aging or drying of the gel, followed by calcination. So these are the main steps involved in sol gel method. Next, what are the importance of the sol gel method? So main advantage is that here easily we can synthesize nano-sized particles, and we can carry out this process at comparatively low temperature also, and we do not need any costly equipment also, so it is inexpensive, and compositional modification is also easy. With the different modification of nanomaterials can be synthesized easily. And we have here the second type of synthesis of nanomaterials by precipitation method. So what is this precipitation method? This method is mainly used to prepare metal oxide nanoparticles, specifically for metal oxide. So zinc oxide nanoparticles can be synthesized effectively here, even zinc sulfide nanoparticles also. Here mainly in this technique we use the inorganic metal salt, and that has to be dissolved in water. So what happens, the metal cations in water exist in the form of its hydrates. So then these species are hydrolyzed, and we need to add some reagent, usually base is added, and upon increasing the concentration of the base, what happens, the hydrolyzed species gets condensed with each other. They form metal hydroxide or metal oxide precipitate as you go on adding the base. So this precipitate we need to wash it and clean it and filter it and dry it. And this dried powder again we need to make it to undergo the calcination process to obtain fine form of the metal oxide nanoparticle. So very simple method, laboratory, easily we can synthesize the nanoparticle by precipitation method. So first step, it involves use of inorganic metal salt, of which we are going to synthesize the nanoparticles. So here the precipitation takes place, and that precipitate has to be dried and it has to calcinate it to get the fine form of the nanoparticles. So mainly first step is dissolving metal salt in water. The inorganic metal salt we need to dissolve in water. So metal salt like chlorides, nitrates, acetate or oxychloride. So after dissolving, what happens, the metals in the metal salt, that metal cations in water, they exist in the form of metal hydrates, like you can see here, hydrated form of aluminium, iron, here how it is represented. So when you dissolve the metal salt in water, they exist in the form of its metal hydrate species, and this species we need to hydrolyze it further. So we need to add base like ammonium hydroxide or sodium hydroxide, so which contains the hydroxyl ion. So as you go on adding this anionic precipitating agent or the base material, here what happens, there will be increase in concentration of the hydroxyl ion, that is from the reagent we use sodium hydroxide or ammonium hydroxide. So here example for precipitating agent, sodium hydroxide or ammonium hydroxide. So when you add this base solution, OH minus concentration goes on increases, and they start hydrolyzing the species, they start condensing with each other, and there will be formation of metal hydroxide or hydrous metal oxide is formed, which exists in the form of precipitate. This is how the precipitate of the respective metal nanoparticle, metal oxide nanoparticle is formed. So once the precipitate is formed, we need to wash it, filter it and dry. And for that dry powder again we have to calcinate to obtain the fine form of the nanoparticle. So specifically this method is used for the synthesis of metal oxide. So very simple method, we need to take the inorganic metal salt with water, and what happens, the metal part, cation part of the metal salt exists in its hydroxide form, you can see here, and after that we need to add the precipitating agent. we need to add the base to the solution like sodium hydroxide or ammonium hydroxide. So this precipitate is then as you go on adding sodium hydroxide or ammonium hydroxide, the hydroxyl ion concentration of this base goes on increases, and it starts condensation. There will be condensation between the species, and they form the precipitate of corresponding metal oxide, and the precipitate formed is easily separated by filtering process. And again we need to dry it and we need to do the calcination to obtain the fine crystalline metal oxide nanoparticles. So zinc sulfide nanoparticles can be effectively synthesized, as well as zinc oxide, titanium oxide nanoparticles can be effectively synthesized by precipitation method. And what we can observe here, this method is very simple method, and it is relatively economical also. No need of using any equipments also, with simple glassware and the reagent. That reagent also we are using base sodium hydroxide or ammonium hydroxide. So it is inexpensive method, as well as we can synthesize a wide range of metal oxide nano powders easily. But in this case we cannot control the size of the nanoparticles formed, and there is possibility that there may be aggregation of the nanoparticles because of the uncontrollable precipitation process. So this is about the general introduction of nanomaterials, and what are the two approaches to synthesize nanomaterials are followed, that is top down and bottom up approach. And other two specific methods that we have discussed is for the synthesis of nanomaterials, sol gel method and precipitation method. So sol gel method, the major steps involved is formation of solution or sol, next formation of gel kind of network, and after that dehydration followed by removal of the moisture, that is dehydration, aging of the gel, then finally drying and calcination process. Even in precipitation method, it involves the precipitation of the metal oxide by taking the inorganic metal salt solution in water, and where it forms its corresponding metal hydroxide, and for that we need to add some precipitating agent like sodium hydroxide or ammonium hydroxide. So as you go on adding the reagent, there will be precipitation of corresponding oxides of metal, and after that it has to be filtered, dried and calcinated to get the fine powder form of the nanomaterials. And in addition to that, we have discussed about the properties, what are the advantages of nanomaterials, and because of what it shows more advanced property compared to normal bulk scale materials. So mainly it shows varied property with respect to its optical behavior, magnetic behavior, thermal behavior, or the chemical reactivity, etc. It is mainly because of the change in surface area to volume ratio, as well as the change in energy state of the material. So these two factors contribute to the change in properties of nanomaterials. So this is about the synthesis and general introduction for nanomaterials. So in the next video lecture, we will be discussing about the chemical vapor deposition method of synthesis of nanomaterials, and about few of the nanomaterials and their applications. So thank you all.